Welcome to the Social Club on Ballsies. I'm joined by James. I'm joined by Paul. And we've had a tweet in from 1878_Steve. It's about undervalued players. And he says, should Koeman apologise publicly to Niasse after publicly saying he'll never play for him again? Paul Machin.
Should he No, obviously he should not publicly apologise. Ridiculous. Imagine calling a press conference. Hello guys, right, I would just like to say very publicly that I'm sorry to Oumar Niasse.
But okay.
But okay. No, like managers should not very much not do that. Now, should he be apologising to him behind closed doors? Yeah, absolutely. Because let's face it, what you've got to say at least a thank you or a little cuddle or whatever to him, because look, he's come in. You've kind of been clamouring for it in the last week or two, if nothing else. Everton don't have a massive options in the attacking positions, and he did all right on loan, didn't he, last season? Was it Hull he was on loan at? Scored a couple of important goals for them on the way, and he'd been summarily written off by everyone from the moment he was written off by Martinez before the week after he signed.
Basically, yeah.
So yeah, whilst I don't think he should be getting apologised to, I don't think Koeman needs to make a big deal of it. Just get him in, like get him playing games, scoring goals if that's what he does. But he probably deserves a little bit of a "I'm dead sorry, mate. Thanks very much. Keep going." Because why would you want to perform for a manager if you're not getting that love, given how much adversity he's already fought against?
I think personally, if I was Ronald Koeman and I'd spent as much money as I'd spent in the transfer window, and then the lad that you're trying to ostracise or sell is basically going to win you the game, I think that's kind of half in half. You already kind of like that. You're facing up to your own consequences in a way. You've sorted yourself out really. So for me, apologise behind closed doors and just keep it like that. And there's no point in saying for me like you're never going to play for this club again, because it's just going to turn around to bite you in the arse. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because basically Liverpool have just done this with Sakho, obviously completely bombed out. I think I wonder if we'll ever find out the true reasons for that. But then equally, Lazar Markovic was on the bench for the League Cup in the midweek. Everyone forgot he even played for us, and we were actually in a weird way crying out for him to come on and have an actual winger come on, maybe add some pace or whatever. But I wonder whether it was more like we might put him in the shop window if needs be, but I don't want him relying on him, because that sends a bit of a wrong message to what you've done. But managers can cut off the noses despite the face.
Let me just put a bit of meat on the bone with the whole Niasse story, because I know it has been quite a big thing over the weekend. I've seen Match of the Day and stuff talking about it. Basically, he signed for the club nearly 18 months ago now, transfer deadline day.
Was it January?
It was January, yeah.
That would make sense for 18 months, wouldn't it?
He came in and he really didn't do any. Like, we didn't see him. The club said that he had an injury straight away. Now, we were told that he didn't look too impressive in training, and he was sort of getting kept back. Manager wanted to give him as much training opportunity, get him trained with Premier League players. He made his debut coming off the bench against West Ham. Now in the game we were 2-0 up and we ultimately lost 3-2. We were then down to 10 men. Lukaku missed the penalty, and when he came on, he just looked so aimless, like he'd won a competition, like he was just running in all kinds of directions where the ball wasn't. Do you know what I mean? That's what it was like, and people were just looking, going. Like, he was almost like the poster child of the Martinez era at the end there. So it was a perfect storm. Martinez leaves. Koeman comes in, has a little look at him in a training game, and just went, he's not good enough. Said he wasn't going to play for the club again. He went to Hull, scored some goals against Liverpool, scored against Man United, and even up till transfer deadline day this summer, nearly left the club, went to Crystal Palace. We didn't know whether the transfer was being finalised. Sakho got bought, and I think it was because they got Sakho and they never got Oumar Niasse. So that's how close it got. This was a lad who famously never had a locker. Picked up his Man of the Match award on Saturday wearing a tracksuit because he doesn't have a suit, because the club have not fitted him for one. And also last week, quietly, Everton moved him from, I think he was number 34 to 19. They had to get special Premier League permission to change his squad number in season.
Why?
I don't know the actual reasons, but they wanted to give him a lower squad number because they now felt he was more part of the squad. I don't know why, and they just did it quiet. Didn't even announce it. It was just moved from 34 to 19. You'll have seen it in your FIFA update or whatever, or your Pro Evolution. And it just shows you what can happen. But you're right, because for me, I think actually he needed that time away. He was when you looked at him, and we've written him off, and I've got no point admitting that. When you watched him, he just simply wasn't good enough. Yeah. But he needed time to develop. Now how do you buy a player and then give him 18 months? You can't do that. But sometimes things just happen in football where people go away. And I suppose we see with younger players, they come in, they have a couple of games, they look okay, and then they just sort of drift away. Go on loan, come back, get a little bit of experience, and suddenly you find a player in there. And I just wonder maybe if that's happened to Niasse and has happened to other players.
I think it happens. I think you're dead right. I think it happens all up and down the Premier League. It happens at all levels of football, because we all think we know. And we're also very fair. I think maybe it's just a thing when you get it. I've discovered myself. It was me when I had kids. It was what brought up to me. Excuse me for the tangent a little bit, but you get very used to the people in your life. You're surrounded by adults. You get very used to people in your life being the same. So they are who they are, and they don't go through major personality, character change. No one gets significantly better or worse or anything. People just carry on doing what they do. So in football, it tends to follow that logic. You see someone, you're like, you make an instant judgment on them, and you're like, well, that's who they are. Whereas you forget sometimes that footballers just improve. Footballers get significantly better. And I think it's probably a knock-on effect of the Michael Owen, Cesc Fabregas, maybe Cristiano Ronaldo kind of culture where we see these players who are just world class from 16, and we presume that if you're not, and by the time you're 18, 19, if you're not a world beater, you're never good enough. You're never going to be good enough. So we have a tendency to go, well, he's crap and he needs to get bombed out. Liverpool as a family, we're bad for that. That's why I feel us overusing like Trent Alexander-Arnold, because I think he's got a very bright future in the game. But if he has to play every game at an unfamiliar position in right back, if he's 38 games at right back, you'll get found out loads and people will turn against him. And then you've then got to fight against that as well to make a success of yourself. So I think it is a very modern. I think we've always done it, but I think it's been exacerbated because again, FIFA. Footy manager, if you can't use the player in your team right now, who cares whether they're good enough?
I think one thing people also forget with footballers and stuff is like, it's quite a stressful thing going through a transfer from one country to another and being able to adapt immediately, not just to the football and the game, but to like your surroundings and where you live in. Some footballers are living out of a hotel for weeks on end.
The problem with this is that the argument that gets put across is like, well, if you're good enough, then you should be able to handle living in a hotel. Have you ever tried? I don't know if you've ever done it. I did it for work for a bit, like a couple of months doing my big plate in my travel tavern. But I did like an early Ball Street series when we first started the channel out. I was 8 weeks. I was down in London, like do 3 or 4 days a week, and it was horrible. It was just a miserable experience because going home to a room, to a bed, and all that, not having. And it's different when you've got loads of money, of course. Like, but all told, it's still the same thing. Not having your
family support network, anything like that.
Exactly. And I think we expect a lot. Now again, true. The best of the best do handle these things and they do thrive in adversity, but not every player has to be the best player ever to play the game. There's a different, people who can be good footballers for your club don't have to be the best players.
Well, I think there was a good example at your club when was it Angel signed?
Jean Pablo Angel, yeah.
And the people were talking about him and how poorly he'd done. He'd been tremendous before he'd signed, and then there was talk afterwards that his wife was having a baby and there'd been complications and they were living in a hotel and they found it really, really stressful. And people at the club were sort of like, get on with it. Was it John Gregory signed him?
Yeah.
And John Gregory was of that mindset. We all remember him telling Stan Collymore to just get on with it, even though he had diagnosed depression or whatever you want to call it. And I think after that, a lot of lessons were learned that I think maybe Villa decided to bring in someone to help the transition of players. And you forget that people, like you just said, people come, they have families. You don't know how, if their families are settled, there's language, Imagine living in a hotel and not speaking English and not having that, just making a simple, like, trying to tell someone your wife needs a doctor or something like that. That's stress, and then you have to leave your wife maybe in that hotel while you go and train and impress these people who have maybe already got, or you're trying to play catch up. And I think that's what people forget about football. It is a life change, and we do expect instant result. And us as football fans are the same. We've got one at the moment, Davy Klaassen, who, and I point him out for 2 reasons. He's having a tough time at the moment. Come from Ajax with a big price tag that obviously he didn't put on himself. You know, he's struggled so far. And it's sad because he's a number 10, maybe, but he's come into a team that have signed 2 other number 10s.
Yeah.
So that's already made it difficult. But I watched it yesterday. He went back to Ajax and got his chance to say goodbye, even though a lot of fans think he'll be going back sooner than he thinks. And the attention and
flares, and yeah, like a tifo for him.
Yeah, like a fireworks thing that spelled out "good luck, Davey" or whatever. And the reception was unbelievable. And you think, well, if they appreciated him that much, maybe he is worth taking the time. Yeah. Because I just think that in the Premier League, we want instant results, and we're not. But also, if we're not willing, or there isn't a pathway, say in the old days, if a player wasn't doing too well in the Premier League, in the first division, you'd put him in the reserves and let him get his confidence. But there doesn't seem to be too many managers who are willing to do that. Yeah. We've had some tweets in, Paul.
Yeah, so a few suggestions. So I'd said, are there any players at your club you think are badly underrated or have been written off too soon? I think that's probably a bit too broad, but I'll go with some of the written off. There's a few people, again, 1878 Steve mentions Klaassen there. Nick Hartley, who's at Race to Death, said Hendo or Jordan Henderson.
Yeah.
I think he's a great example of that. Now, we're talking about a guy who a week ago, all of a sudden was like, he's not, like midweek, not fit to be Liverpool's captain. He's terrible. You know, I was talking to my dad about this. He said he was in the pub talking to his brother, and he was talking about the footy. And this fella from another table went, "Sorry, I hear you talking about footy. I can't keep quiet. Jordan Henderson is the worst Liverpool captain of all time," and blah blah blah. Put in an immense performance at the weekend. You know, not just like a good footballing performance, but like gnarly. Bollocking the referees and the officials and just being dead, you know, score the goal as well. Exactly. And again, this is not to say that you need to put more of those performances in ultimately to win people over, but I think there's always got to be a player. I say this, there's got to be one player in our 11 at all times who is it's like a code. And you say the name and everyone knows what you mean when you say his name. And for you, it was Moreno, roll the eyes. Alberto Moreno, and we had a couple of suggestions for him as well. Mikhail Pijinski says that. He says Alberto Moreno. Another one, like to the point where it becomes, like I say, it becomes a secret language. Or you don't need to discuss the player. You just need to say, you must have, you've just got one at you.
Martina.
Yeah.
Martina, it's a Kuka Martina. Oh, no. Oh, I know. If you know them, please let us know.
But then it's funny because you get that other side. You go get people who defend these people, some of these players, and it's quite funny. Well, you know, you can put in a decent cross. Like, you know,
you're on a hand to not defending these players, aren't you? That's
at Villa, we had Jordan Amarvi, who was fantastic for the first few months of his Villa career. And then he did his ACL on international duty. We got relegated, and it just kind of like, his path kind of went down the same road as Villa's kind of plight, and we had just had to bin him off for 10 mil. But I thought he could have been an excellent left back for Villa, a position that we've not been able to sort for ages.
That's the worst as well, is when you have one of those players and you let them go, and then you see them flourish at another club where circumstances are different. Maybe, you know, it's their home country or they're playing in the position they want to play in, and then suddenly everything drops in, and you go, why didn't we do something with them?
So interesting shout there, Jordan Gallagher, Jordan L. Gal says Phil Jones or Fellini this season, both having solid seasons so far. Phil Jones is a great example of that. I think, and this is not just within the club. I think we'll probably in weeks ago we'll probably do this like which player at your club is you think's good, but everyone outside your club thinks is shit. It's probably good. Well, Phil Jones is one of them where I think the fact that he's just got a funny face, people like to write him out. He came from Blackburn and he's got a mad face. It doesn't help you sometimes, does it? Like, but which is true in life. I think as much as anything else, if you've got a funny face and you're from Blackburn. I'm sorry, Blackburn. I don't think anyone's from Blackburn anymore.
I live near Blackburn.
Nacho Monreal says GIF _ Trigger. Raheem Sterling, as is an interesting shout. Everyone's desperate to write him off, and look at him now. He's just started banging goals in again for fun, where he's just not having all the pressure heaped upon him. Lucas Perez says 49 unbasicked. Oxlade Chamberlain. Moussa Sissoko. Really good game at at the weekend, by all kinds, actually drawing some plaudits.
Well, that's it. He's another one, isn't he? You just wonder. You wonder how long some of these players will get, because as fans, we look at it very differently. Like you just mentioned, Fellini. Clearly, the manager loves that player. Absolutely loves him. It made it very clear to him what his role's going to be, how many games he's going to play, and Fellini has gone, yeah, I'm in for this.
Everyone heard him being linked to like Fenerbahce, I think
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah.
it? They went, yeah, that sounds perfectly reasonable. And he was like, no, you stupid.
Yeah.
Not for sale at any price. And you're like,
But I think
okay.
that's, as long as the player and the manager have, and this is funny going back to the Niasse thing, as long as the player and the manager have a relationship and it's very clear what's going on, then that's fine. And Koeman has said, going back to Niasse, Koeman said last week, or even in the press conference of the weekend, when he was asked about him getting chances, he said, well, he's in the squad. He's getting chances. He's come off the bench twice and scored goals. He has got chances and he's taken them. Yeah. Now we have to see what the next step is.
Yeah.
The first thing he said was, he's back in first team training. He'd been training with the under-23s. He's back training. That's the first step. Yeah. And I suppose for the manager, what I find quite interesting for the managers probably can never be seen as doing wrong, really, because when they're rubbish, and, you've made a great decision, you've been bold, you've been brave, you've put them out, and then when they bring them back, you've been brave, you've been bold, you've brought them back, they're getting success, you've gone against yourself, fantastic.
But this is why it's so damaging for managers to come out and say they're never playing for us again, because it's just, I just don't, you keep it behind closed doors.
Managers are liars, though, ultimately. Managers are liars. This is the thing you've got to take from football managers. They lie all the time. They lie from press conference to press conference. Nothing they say is for the benefit of anyone other than themselves. It's when they say, he's not for sale, and 3 days later they get sold, and then they can say something. It doesn't matter ultimately, because their job is just to keep people happy for the 5 seconds that they're asked that question, or whatever that day, because that's ultimately that's all that matters.
Yeah, we go to squad rotation. Everyone's going to get the chances when secretly he knows he likes 2 of them 3 lads, and the third lad's fucked. He wouldn't have him at the club, but there's no what's the sense exactly. That's why I think you're right though. In the Koeman's fucked himself by being public and those things, because you just don't know until that player's 100% gone. I always say about slagging players off in a general sense. You know, it's not wrong with being disappointed with performances and all this, but and unfortunately, it doesn't. Ultimately, it doesn't really. As long as you're doing it online, it doesn't really have any impact on the performances one way or the other. But I always let's give the benefit of doubt to guys who are still at your club, because footy's mad. Players, as long as they can get in that team, you've always got the ability to win a game of football for you.
That's it, and you're right. If you could come down to the last man, it could be last man standing, and the man that you've wrote off, and it does happen in football like that. The person that you've wrote off, that you said was terrible, comes back to be the hero. And
the worst thing, the hardest lesson for all of us is that, unfortunately, the expression "he's shit" is one of the worst shouts in football, because if they're playing Premier League football. Newsflash for you, they're actually really good at footy. Even if they're not as good as the rest of the people in that league, they're still in like the top 5% of human beings. Of 7 million people, it's probably a less percentage than that, isn't it? The 1%.
0.1% of footballers that can play to that standard.
Yeah, absolutely, which is disappointing, but they're not very sensational. But
Anyway, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Is there a player at your club that has been completely written off, but actually, he's on the sly is really, really good? Or has there been a player that was written off that come back and did something amazing? Let us know your comments. Let us know your comments on Koeman as well. Was he right to write Oumar Niasse off, and now are you just laughing your tits off at the big head? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching Ball Street Social Club. Catch all the other videos we've done this week, and we'll see you later.